The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethimarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethimarket.com. Ethimarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers. Each life we incarnate into has a divine purpose. For the majority of people on this planet, their purpose has eluded them. We have become so distracted with the struggle to survive that we have forgotten what we are here to do. In alignment with the sacred laws of nature, the ultimate purpose of all existence is to create and evolve. We certainly do not incarnate into life with the intention to destroy. And yet, we have come to live in a very destructive world. As a result, there are many out there who feel lost or adrift, whilst knowing deep down inside that something is very wrong with their reality. Many people wish they could do something of value, anything that is purposeful, instead of having to submit to a system of slavery in order to survive. It is important never to let go of that feeling. That is your soul crying out to you, telling you that your life has value and that you do indeed have a purpose. The most important thing you can do in life is to recognize your purpose, and often that requires a lot of soul searching. Life indeed dishes out some pretty tough challenges, which will either move you closer towards your purpose path, or will give you great training for when you finally realize what it is that you came here to do. But more often than not, the very clues about your life's purpose are hidden in plain sight, woven into the very fabric of our existence. But we are so easily distracted by irrelevant details that don't really matter, that often we miss the very obvious right in front of us. It is because of our willful ignorance of anything that does not fit our preconceived ideas that the truth about the nature of our reality is so readily hidden in plain sight. This is a very deep and personal journey, which has come to be expressed in many aspects throughout my life. This is not just an attempt to retell a bunch of research and pass it off as my own, for I am very grateful and openly acknowledge all the many wonderful people that I have been given the opportunity to work with and to learn from in order to get to the point where I've come to know what I now know. This is a journey I was always destined to go on, and likewise, how I have come to know this information forms as much a part of the story as the information itself.
Your life.
Hello and good evening, everybody. My name is Mel V, and this is Dragonology. Thank you for tuning in wherever you may be on this planet. It is the 18th of June, 2015, and today is the season finale of Season 1, being episode 13. And wow, can't believe it's gone so quickly, but what a journey it has been. And even for me, I've learned so much engaging with this information and, just getting to know all the wonderful people all over the world who've really taken to this genre of information and who've been corresponding with me, sending things into me, learning and growing together. So very grateful to all of you for your loyal support, and for those of you who have been corresponding with me regularly, thank you so much for all of your advice, information, and tips. And let's hope this information continues to inspire people to keep searching. So I'm just going to dive straight in tonight with I suppose, a really good way to end off the first series. We covered a lot of very interesting ground. But tonight we deal with, I suppose, the ultimate, which is war and peace. So I'm just going to give you a definition of war as described actually by Wikipedia. Okay? War is a state of armed conflict between societies, such as states or violent participants, and is generally characterized by extreme collective aggression, destruction, and usually high mortality. The set of techniques and actions used to conduct war is known as warfare. An absence of war is usually called peace. While some scholars see warfare as a universal and ancestral aspect of human nature, others argue that it is only as a result of specific socio-cultural or ecological circumstances. War usually results in significant deterioration of infrastructure and the ecosystem, a decrease in social spending, famine, large-scale immigration from the war zone, and often the mistreatment of prisoners of war and civilians. So the question, of course, beckons, why do we go to war? And what is the meaning of peace? In war, who is right and who is wrong? Which side do we take? There's a very famous expression in our circles of thought that goes, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Which side is right and which side is wrong? Who do we side with? And if you look at two sides going to war, should we be siding with any warring party? I mean, any person enacting violence against another for whatever reason is wrong. And we should never, ever support that, not under the guise of patriotism, not under the guise of nationalism. We're even sold the idea that we should go to war to protect our freedom. And that to me is just, kind of contradictory, because in protecting our freedoms, we take the freedoms of others by killing and destroying. So it's a bit of a paradox, really. And the simple fact is that, war is continuous. They talk about war and peace like we actually have peace, but we have not had peace in a very long time. It's like we have continually been at war on one level or another, even if it's just an information war, by feeding humanity lies and, programming them into being not very nice people who are prepared to go out and fight these wars. So let's take a little look at this from the perspective of how we approach this information, which is obviously through the history of words and etymology. And through this, we learn, we examine and explore the reasons why we fight each other, okay? And it's a very good thing to ask yourself is, why do we fight each other? What is the purpose of fighting? What would the origins of war be? Where does it start? You know, it's not a natural state of being for us to be this destructive. We are creative beings capable of such infinite greatness. Just the things that we've been able to create in our reality, you know, you just have to walk around a developed city and see the great feats of architecture we've been able to achieve, or even around an art gallery to see, you know, the beautiful works of art that we as human beings can create that no other creature on the planet has the potential to create. And yet, we use all of this to hurt each other. And most of the time, we don't even know why. Why do we fight each other? And where does that originate? What is the origin of war? I'm going to read a little piece that I found that I thought would give a slightly more esoteric context to it. And I thought it was a great place to put the context of what we're about to engage in and what we've been covering off through the course of the last 12 Dragonology episodes, and take that all and put it into context for this finale episode. In the beginning, there was no war, for all things were one, and conflict could not arise. The descent into manifestation is inevitably, in one sense, a descent into war. That is, the primordial unity of unmanifest wholeness is broken, and conflict enters into the now manifest cosmos. Nonetheless, it is true to say that physical war was unknown until a very large stage in humanity's history, until a very late stage in humanity's history. War between maid and maid was quite alien to the vast majority of matriarchal human civilization. In the first golden age, war raged continually, but it was waged directly against the forces of darkness on the psychic and spiritual levels. This is the authentic archetype of war, the Vikhail, or true holy war. And from this, all the glory and nobility later associated with the physical battle derives. It is still fought by every contemplative and mystic. As time wore on and the descent into matter continued, the enemy began to take on physical or quasi-physical forms. So also did the forces of good. It is from this period, many thousands of years ago, that the mythological creatures such as dragons, centaurs, unicorns, etc., found legends throughout the world, have their origins today. Later still, the forces of evil began to incarnate themselves into human civilizations in the decadent matriarchal and proto-patriarchal states. It is in this period the holy war descends fully to the physical level and made first fights made. Finally, in the Kali Yuga or Age of Iron, physical war becomes a condition of life. Kali Yuga is known as the Age of Quarrels or Conflicts. It is also the age when the masculine images of deities first arrive and later become dominant over the feminine ones. Increasingly, all remnants of the true holy war are lost, and war becomes merely a manifestation of chaos and discord within the Iron Age. This continual conflict is the inverse parody of the fact that the true soul is constantly at war with the discordant forces within her until she wins through to the primordial peace of union with God. There is an inverse ratio between earthly and heavenly war. The more strongly the true holy war is fought, the more there is peace on earth among maids. The more peace is made with the forces of darkness, the more the war spreads upon the earth. But there are times when the holy war and the earthly war are one. And here we may know the holy war from the profane war by the fact that at its very heart is peace. Okay, so let's get into this from the mythological, dragonology, from the etymological perspective. All right. War is worship, plain and simple. Early practices of razing cities and bringing enemy cities to the ground can be traced back to the worship of deities, and that is a fact. Destruction, chaos, rape, pillage, all things associated with the deities, with the dragons, with the gods, and we'll show you how. First off, let's take a look at the etymology. Worship is war. War is worship of the gods and deities. Sacrifice, holocaust, that's all in honor of the gods and the deities. And, I beg your pardon, here I go, skipping things again. The words war and worship, or worship and war, both contain the common dragon root word, O-R, which is the most common dragon root, is the or root, which sometimes is pronounced, or I should say spelled with an A-R, but phonetically pronounced still as or. For example, the words war and whore pretty much have that same vowel sound in it. So even though the A replaces the O, never forget, in etymology, vowel sounds often transliterate out from each other. And for those of you who have been following along with Dragonology, this little chart here should not be new to any of you. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but just to say, point out over here, the serpent root word that we first dealt with, the or, also spelled O-R, O-U-R, and A-R. But the one we're going to be dealing with the most tonight, obviously, would be down here at the end, which is the host and hostile root. Host coming from ghost, which comes from go, gone, jinn, jinn, and of course, this variation of jinn. And for any of you who have not seen the previous Dragonology episodes, all of this makes a lot more sense when you actually go through and see how the words are built up. Okay, so dealing with the war of the gods, or the war in heaven. This is found throughout every cultural mythology across the world. In fact, this is a painting from 1595 of the fall of the Titans. You can literally see people falling out of the sky. And now, when we've done Dragonology episodes in the past, we went through the etymological significance of the word naked and how the word naked is similar to the word snake. That is why often the gods are depicted with no clothes on, is because this is obviously an allegorical reference to the serpent as being naked or snaked. And the angels in heaven, or hell, or whatever you want to call it, the angels, also known as Malak, similar to Moloch and Malachi, are often compared to a crew member, or an army member, or a task force member. There's a lot of the allegory of vessels and cruise vessels and ships and boats and naval vessels. That's very much symbology that's tied in with angels. Usually you'll find angels often being depicted armed, sometimes with shields, sometimes with body armor, sometimes with swords and spears. And a lot of marine allegory, for example, boats and vessels. And but vessels don't only have to be boats. They can also be cars and carriages, anything that can sort of, carry things in any capacity, in the air, in the water, on the ground. It kind of all ties into this theme of the angels being likened to an army or a task force or a crew member of a naval vessel. The theme of ships and boats and naval crew or armies representing an army of angels from heaven is further indicated in the wordplay harbor and heaven. Now, we dealt with this last week. Heaven and harbor, okay, that's the English words, but harbor, if you say it in Dutch, is haven. Now, haven is etymologically cognizant with the word heaven, which of course is English. Haven referring to a harbor, Dutch word for harbor, and very similar to heaven. All you'd have to do is take the E out of heaven and you have haven. So again, showing just how the heavens are tied into the marine theme, and that's very symbolically allegorical because we'll go on to explain. These angelic beings, crew member or army or task force, are referred to in the Bible as heavenly hosts or angelic hosts. Okay, the Lord of hosts, commander to the angelic hosts, the army of God. All right. So all this kind of thing ties in together. This is where host comes in. All right. I want you to pay special attention. Host is very significant. Heavenly hosts, and this is a term used in the Bible, the Lord of hosts or angelic hosts or heavenly hosts. Both mentioned, both these terms are mentioned in both the Christian and the Hebrew Bibles. And this is a painting called the Blessed Be the Hosts of the King of Heaven, right? Painted in 1550 with angels. You can see a little angel here on a griffin, lots of little angels over there. This looks to be like a little snake. Always a snake turning up in these pictures. But again, like an army or a task force, right? And then, of course, religion. We did this last week. The host are originators of formalized religion. And religion is a word that is borrowed from the Latin transitive verb religere, meaning to bind or moor a boat. So bind or contract, right? This gets interesting as we get into this. And, in the most ancient religions, such as the Egyptian religion, you just cannot get away from this imagery of the boats. You've got these celestial boats with the gods, always associated with the gods and the sun symbol, which of course is erroneously associated with the gods here. We've got Horus on a boat, okay, with, this is Apophis, the snake god. And you can tell this is Horus because of the hawk head and the sun symbol, because Horus was a sun god, and of course the serpent, always wrapped around the sun. But on a boat, again, the celestial boat. The boat or ship is a symbol of governance, interconnected to the development of religion based on written laws. The ship is a symbol of divine birthright, traced through the lineage of Noah. And again, another Egyptian depiction, serpent. Yeah, another serpent here. They always turn up. Now we speak about Noah. Lots of interesting things about Noah. And for those of you who haven't seen the Russell Crowe vehicle, I sincerely suggest you go check it out. They bring up a whole bunch of very interesting things in there, including the concept of the Watchers, but also at the end you see Noah wrapping his arm in snakeskin, indicating that he is in fact of the dragon bloodline, as indicated by this picture. But if you actually look at some of the Bible passages with regards to Noah, it alludes to the fact that he was not quite human, that he was special, not of this earth. Often described as having eyes that shine, yeah? And, of course, Noah erroneously associated with the boat or the ark. And ships, of course, are a reflection of, as we say here, to bind, to contract, to moor, and also a symbol of, as we say over here, a divine birthright. The ship is a symbol of divine birthright. That's why you get the words lordship, kingship, and of course things that bind, friendship, relationship. The symbol of the divine birthright is extended from the boat or the ship to the basket in the case of the story of Moses. And this is why in the story, and it is just a story, he wasn't really found in a basket, but those understanding the symbolic allegory, which would be the people within secret societies, would understand that this quite simply references, like a boat or a vessel, this quite simply references the fact that Moses is obviously of the specific divine birthright of the dragon bloodline. And in fact, he was of royal birth, as anybody who follows Johann Oldenkamp's work will know. Moses was in fact Thutmose III. And this can be told, you can actually go back and look at this, because there is a stunning double marker of the events which converged in the 18th year of Thutmose III. And the Exodus, which happened, actually ties in with things that happened in the reign of Tutmos, which is spelled like Moses, right? And yeah, so it's no coincidence. Moses was actually an Egyptian pharaoh. That's why he's of the divine birthright, like divine right of kings. What's interesting to notice is there's so many depictions of Moses with horns as well, which not many people talk about really, but yeah, lots of them. This one's in Rome. Here's another one over here. And this is, of course, important, the Ten Commandments. This is a different depiction of Moses, obviously depicting him with a very old man, lots of wrinkles. Look, horns coming out here. And here's another one with him in the Ten Commandments, the 10 plagues. And also, again, he's got horns. This is a medieval depiction. So commonly known that he was of this particular dragon serpent bloodline, because it's been depicted in sculpture and art. Okay, let's take a look at this etymology. We've dealt with the AR before in previous Dragonology episodes, so please do go back and check it out. Just a quick recap. Of course, Noah and the ark, and then Moses and this ark. Okay, two different types of arks. And then the word ankh, arch, and archer. These are all from the same group of words. And of course, with all things that link into the same roots, they have a common origin or common conceptual meaning. So yeah, interesting to notice this picture of Moses and the ark, which is an engraving, also depicts Moses with horns, very interestingly enough. And here we have the ark, the way it has been described many times over. The Ark of the Covenant, according to the book of Exodus, the ark was built at the commandment of God. All right, now what I take that as is dragons or reptilian bloodlines, whatever you want to call them, gave, information or technology, because they're far more advanced than us, gave it to man, and they created a weapon of war. Because if you look at what this ark was capable of doing, let's just have a look. The Ark of the Covenant had the power to part the River Jordan, much like God parted the waters of the Red Sea. Okay? So kinetic forces, but also the walls of the city of Jericho were shaken to the ground with no more than a shout from the army after the Ark of the Covenant was paraded around them for 7 days by the Levites, accompanied by 7 priests sounding 7 trumpets of ram's horn. Okay, so 7 priests, 7 ram's horn, and went around the city for 7 days. Go back and watch last week's Dragonology for those of you who want to talk about, Levites, obviously Jewish, Sabbath, which is Jewish, Sabbath and 7 come from the same etymological roots. And here they use the term 7 3 times because this is actually referencing a ritual of some kind. Yeah, very interesting. It's all symbolic, of course, but very specific about the fact that they brought down the walls of the city. And this was always done. The raising of cities was always done to please the gods. So ritual is also worship of the gods. And of course, let's look at the word ankh. The symbol of the ankh originates in ancient Egypt and is always found depicted on or near to gods or deities or pharaohs or royalty within the Egyptian religion and on Egyptians' architecture and artwork. And of course, arches. We've done this and we went through architecture. This is the Vatican, St. Peter's Basilica. This is, of course, the main altar. But you can see everywhere within the basilica is covered. Even in the smallest little spaces, they put arches into. There we go. Just in this one little picture, let's see how many we can count. So we've got one there, one big one there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the big one there, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Just 17 arches, and you wouldn't think, if I said this has 17 arches and you wouldn't think that, they're there. Just count them. Yeah, arches, very common, used in church. And of course, the word archon, meaning ruler or god, is what ties into the word arch and why they use arches, like Marble Arch and Arc de Triomphe, of course, all referencing the rulers and the archons. And of course, the archer, quintessential figure of the warrior as well. The angelic dragons or hosts of heaven, whatever you want to call them, hosts or armies of heaven, are cognizant with naval crews, armies, task force, guardians, or watchers. But they're often depicted as like little small beings. So this is interesting because, well, you can see he's got a quiver of arrows, he's got an arrow, a bow over here, but it's a little kid. You know, it's a little cherubim or a putti. So even the little ones are depicted as being armed, you know, and as we've spoke about before, the use of cherubim and putti is merely a reference to the pederastic kind of culture that is involved with ritual. All right. Interestingly enough, we've spoken about this before, angels and demons. Angels and dragons are essentially the same thing, although often in Christian-themed art are depicted as divine counterparts or opposites, often with the angel being depicted as with a human-like countenance and the dragon being depicted with the sort of frightening serpent-like countenance, although they are in fact exactly the same beings, just fighting different sides of the battle. Again, which one is right and which one is wrong? We don't know. We only know what we're told through the eyes of Christianity. And there's obviously many other religions that you can go and look deeper into the allegorical myths, which, you know, are mirrored over and over again, very much the same things. You just got to know how to peel away the layers and which labels apply to which. And then you can narrow down the archetypes to a few very basic characters, which seem to pop up in every single religion, as which I'll go on to show. But what I want to point out here is notice how armed this angel is, okay? Wearing a breastplate of armor. It's got a shield, sword, about to kill this dragon. Again here, another armed angel, body armor, sword, shield. So armed, weapons, war, naval crew, army, task force. I think you can see where we're going with this. You don't arm people unless they plan to go to war. This is why you often see angels depicted with swords and shields, because they are an army, a task force. I don't carry a sword with me because I don't want to go to war. All right, we learn from the Bible that there was an ongoing confrontation in the days of the Exodus when Yahweh, the God of Israel, smote Egypt with a series of afflictions intended not only to soften the heart of its rulers, but also as judgments against all gods of Egypt. The prophet Jeremiah commented on these events. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I will punish Ammon, god of thieves, and those who trust in him, and shall bring retribution upon Egypt and its gods, its pharaohs, and its kings. All right, so this is one God wanting to go to war with another God, very clearly laid out here, all right? And then, of course, a document exists in the form of an inscription on the walls of the great temple at Edfu, an ancient Egyptian holy city dedicated to the god Horus, which describes the first war in which the gods involved mortal men. And this is Edfu. Traditions which were inscribed into the temple at Edfu state that Horus established a metal foundry there, at which unique weapons made of divine iron were forged, okay? Horus trained an army of Mesniu, okay, who, according to Egyptian traditions, were the first men who ever have been armed by the gods with weapons made of metal. They were the first men to have been enlisted by the gods to fight in the wars between the gods, and man was given weapons by the gods. I mean, we didn't go digging stuff out of the ground because we knew it was in there and how to make it. Someone came and showed us these things, and I've been saying for a long time, the skills of glass making, art, to a certain extent, food cooking, agriculture, some of it was given. That knowledge came to us from other sources. It wasn't something that evolved naturally with Homo sapien. So it was the skills of metal forging and sword making and weapon making. And of course, it is also said that the name men comes from the fact that men takes on the first two letters of mesniu and metal. Metal, mesniu, and men are meant to come from the same root, because man was given metal and then he was called men. And originally that was mesniu. Interesting that how man gets defined by his war weapon. Weapons, the original weapons of war are all rooted in dragon etymology. And we have been through this before. This is not new territory. We've been leading up to this point to make specific points, okay? All of these are rooted in dragon etymology. We can break it down, for example. Spear, obviously this is the pala-para-pio root, which we will go over in a bit. This has the OR, common serpent root word in it, okay? And of course, saber, which we did last week. When we talk about the Sabbath and seventh, saber fits into that group of words. And then some of the terminology and how it evolves and where it's going to some dark places. Okay. The word angel comes from the Latin word anguium or angui, and angui is only one letter short of anguish, which is the English word. Anguish or anger, which I'd say, if you talk about love and fear, is certainly on the fear side of things, much like the word cruel, which is phonetically cognizant with the word crew, like a naval crew or an army. And then, of course, the word host, which we've dealt with quite a bit tonight, is, of course, the root of the word hostile. So I'm sure you can see where we're going with this. All words that fit in quite well with the concept of war and fighting and conflict. Okay. Talking about Horus earlier and his Temple of Edfu. Let's get into Horus a little bit because it's actually very interesting. Every time I dig a bit more, I find a bit more. So Horus, of course, is the ancient Egyptian sun god. Okay, lots of interesting stories surrounding Horus. We've covered him off quite a bit in previous dragonologies. But of course, Horus does have the OR root here. And because the way we measure time is measured by the sun and the cycles of day and night, the word hours is actually taken from the word Horus. You just have to move those letters around. So hours comes from Horus. And Horus is often depicted with a bird-like countenance. Sometimes depicted either as, like a full bird with spread eagle wings, or just with a bird's head like this, but not just any bird. It's a very specific bird. People have been saying for a long time, he's the Horus bird, or they haven't really been too specific about it, but there is a particular type of bird that the Horus bird is depicting, and for a very specific reason. I'll go on to explain. Horus is represented by the peregrine falcon, not just the eagle or any other bird, the peregrine falcon. Let me tell you about the peregrine falcon. The fastest animal on the planet. It can dive to catch prey faster than anything we know. One of the most proficient hunters on the planet, and amazing speed and amazing vision. But what is really interesting to note is the eye markings. On every depiction of Horus, you'll always notice this black marking behind the eye, which goes backwards in a hook here. All right, that is the mark of the peregrine falcon. You can see it there, right? It comes up underneath the eyes and hooks back. So yeah, coming up underneath the eyes and hooking back there, right? Like that with there. That is how you can tell the peregrine falcon. And as we said, the ankh always turning up with the peregrine falcon. Yeah, I beg your pardon, not just the peregrine falcon, but with any Egyptian royalty or with any priests with any of that kind of thing, you normally find the Ankh turning up because it's normally found near to anyone who is of this divine royal dragon bloodline. All right, so peregrine. The word peregrine contains two dragon etymological roots, okay? And we've dealt with pere a huge amount, okay? Pere with an end at the is the Dutch word plural for pears, the fruit. We've dealt with pears to death as well. And of course, that comes from the para-pio root, which we've also covered off extensively. So that's the first syllable of peregrine. And then, of course, the grin comes from the gin root, all right, which evolved into Jinn, Gen, Gin, and then green. We've done the green and plant as dragon roots as well when we've gone through all of this. And we'll go into green a bit more, but this is where you get grin from. And, of course, I would say Grim Reaper, which we've covered off previously as well. That would be rooted here too. All right, green. Now, Osiris, the Egyptian god, was commonly depicted as being green, all right? And this is very interesting because we spoke earlier about how it's so easy to pick up on the archetypes. You just got to know who's who and which deity is representing who in which religion. Now, it's particularly easy in the case of Osiris, who I'd say is an archetype. For example, you've got Horus, Seth, Isis, Osiris, very distinctive archetypes within Egyptian religion, which actually have taken on different names in different cultures, but ultimately are referencing the same archetypes. And Osiris is easily distinguishable in different religions and different cultures because of the green. In Egyptian religion, he's depicted as being green. And of course, in the sort of pagan religions, pre-Christianity, the green man is what became of Osiris. And of course, the green man is a pagan deity of nature, fertility, and rebirth that is depicted with vegetation sprouting from its face and or body. Various ones here. Got some lovely carvings of the green man turning up in Roslin Chapel in Edinburgh. Often find carvings of the green man in churches, alluding to the pagan origins of Christianity. And then Robin Goodfellow. Robin Goodfellow is actually a character out of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and that's the other name for the character who's more commonly known as Puck, the impish knave. And I did performing arts at university, so I'm quite familiar with Midsummer Night's Dream, and I played Titania when I did this particular production. I won't say by William Shakespeare, because William Shakespeare is just a name. It wasn't actually written by him. It was most likely written by Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford. But basically you can see that Robin Goodfellow is very much a variation of the green man, this kind of sort of vegetative, sprite, nature spirit type of thing, yeah? Commonly known as Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, Robin Goodfellow obviously evolved into Robin Hood, and Robin Hood, think about Robin Goodfellow. Robin Hood used to steal money from the rich and give it to the poor. So he was a good fellow. He was a good fellow. And that's how Robin Hood evolved out of Robin Goodfellow, right, which is a pagan deity. Again, the story of Robin Hood is actually probably not a story of a real guy, just most likely a legend that's evolved over time, adapted from earlier legends. The Archangel Gabriel is the Christianized version of the pagan deity taken on various green man forms, and of course Osiris. Osiris is in Christianity represented as Gabriel, and you know that because Gabriel is always depicted wearing green. Yeah? And sometimes you see Gabriel depicted wearing green and red, and the red is a symbol of the bloodline, because this particular being is obviously of divine descent. And you can tell that because he's got a halo and wings. All right. The word prophet has a serpent root word, ophi, in it. Yeah, that means snake or serpent. O-P-H-I, O-P-H-E, O-P-H-O, O-P-H-Y, ophi is a serpent root word or a dragon root word. So the word prophet not only contains a serpent root word in, let's have a look at this. The Prophet Muhammad is often depicted wearing green. All right, notice also he's got a flaming aureola around him. Now, a halo normally goes around the head. It can be circular or flame-like, like this. An aureola goes around the entire body. Again, it can be circular or flame-like, like this. The etymological similarity between prophet with the O-P-H-E-T and profit, as in money profit, is no coincidence, because the prophets profit off of our slavery. This is a depiction from 1307. You have seen this before. I've used it in previous dragonologies. Interestingly enough, depicting Gabriel and Muhammad. Yeah, although neither of them are actually in green, they are erroneously associated in Islamic tradition, and it is said that Muhammad took instruction from Gabriel, or the green man, or Osiris. The prophet took instruction from Gabriel, the angel. Yeah, so Muhammad, being a prophet, prophets are also considered to be of the divine lineage, like the angels. No wonder they chat to each other. They're probably family. One more thing I just wanted to point out. All the angels have L. Christianized angels have L at the end. Michael, Gabriel, Azazel, all have the EL, right? Quality of light, the name of God at the end. And of course, in Arabic, the EL transliterates into AL, and of course, in Latin, that would be IL, like illuminate. Al-Qadir, a mystical figure described in the Quran as a servant of God, possessing great wisdom and knowledge. And Al-Qadir is often depicted on a fish, much like Jesus is sometimes depicted on a fish in churches. And of course, his head surrounded by a halo. Yeah, and as we say, halos can be round or circular. We've just seen, I beg your pardon, round or flame-like. Gave you the example of the flame-like ones earlier. But Al-Qadir normally depicted dressed in green. Just to show you here, Al-Qadir with the flaming halos, and this is a 17th century depiction of Al-Qadir, obviously again on a fish. Now, Al-Qadir is what the word Al-Qaeda has evolved out of. The name Al-Qaeda is given to the Islamic terrorist group, which is actually funded by the Central Intelligence Agency, just in case anybody didn't know. The CIA claimed to be fighting these guys, but actually, in effect, they're funding them. That is the truth, and we'll get onto that in a bit. But if anybody wants to know more about this, please check out my book, The South African Guide to the Global Conspiracy. The Vatican controls all major religions and the global intelligence network and secret society network and secret service network. The Islamic faith was founded by the Roman Catholic Church, and you can download a copy of my free ebook from freedomcentral.info. Okay, so we're going to talk about the star, and for my dear friend Dee, if she's listening, star, this is a piece that has popped up in the most recent puzzles that we've been covering off. The star symbol turns up everywhere. It's very common in modern day culture. I don't think there's a single day when people go without looking at a star symbol. In hieroglyphics, the star is phonetically pronounced as ka, 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 like that, yeah? And it's depicted like this. In hieroglyphics, the ka, or star, is grouped with the term kara and ker, which denotes war. Ka, kara, ker, all right? Marked in blue, because I want to point out something specific here as to where this root turns up. Ka,
in Sumerian can mean king or angel. Kar. Kari or kari can mean soldier in Hebrew. And quarry, okay, to hunt in English. And then, of course, you get quarrel. And we talk about that etymology we were speaking about earlier, that fear-based words. Quarrel, fight, conflict, war. Yeah, ka, ka, ka. That sound, ka. Okay, ka means star. Kai means from the stars, right? And the ka turns up in Kabbalah. And Kaaba actually is the root of cover, and you have conceal, which is, I suppose, a synonym for cover. You cover or conceal. And then the word apocalypse means to uncover or unveil. And that's why you have the word ka and apocalypse. Apocalypse means to uncover or unveil. Ka etymology is etymologically associated with words such as carry, carriage, cargo, car, chariot, and charge. Okay, to profit or charge someone. Yeah, profit and charge are synonymous with each other. Now, carriages, very symbolic when you're talking about the gods, and this is a wood carving of Saturn with, guess what, winged serpents pulling his carriage and carrying a sickle like the Grim Reaper. Let's have a look at some other depictions of this. And you see we've got car here, and you wonder why you have some funny symbols turning up on the Alfa Romeo and a lot of interesting symbolism, like the winged disc on the Mini and the Bentley. You know, there's a reason for it. Chariots of the Gods, okay? Not only a very good book, but quite literally symbolic allegory. Here we've got horses with sort of like serpent bodies pulling these chariots. And this is Poseidon. And over here, we've got a serpent pulling what looks like a winged chariot over here. It's rather interesting. So again, these chariots could themselves actually be representations of dragons. Carriages, yeah, vessels, boats. You see where we're going with this. We covered this off last week, but just a quick recap to take us down the next little road we're going to get onto. We've dealt with the ka, now we dealt with zar. Zar, okay, the root zar. The word zari means both angel and alien or foreigner. And if you talk today, we'll talk about they're an illegal alien, meaning that they are a foreigner. So alien and foreigner are synonymous with each other. So in Aramaic, zari means angel, alien, and foreigner. In Arabic, zal or sal means light. In Greek, sal, being the root of sauros, means lizard. Hebrew, zohar, means shine, which is the quality of light. And Zora means Venus, like the brightest sky, the brightest star in the morning sky, the morning star. Okay, and bringing the two words together, ka and zar. Yeah, the words Kaiser reiterates the connection between bloodlines, the dragon bloodlines, and the bloodline of kings who have the divine right to rule. And we've seen this interconnection in words such as basilisk and basileus. We've discussed this plenty, but Kaiser, again, reiterates this interconnection between kings and dragons. The fact that the kings are dragons, they're of this dragon bloodline. And the reason they rule is because they've been given the divine right to rule by the gods, angels, dragons, hosts. Kaiser evolved into Caesar. The word Caesar has come from Kaiser, and the Pope is known as the Papal Caesar. Yeah, Julius Caesar. Of course, famous for saying, "I came, I saw, I conquered," and you can only conquer through war. All right, so host evolved into hostile, but the word hostis, let's look at the word hostis, which is obviously from this root as well. The Latin word hostis means enemy. Now, the word hostis has some interesting phonetic cognizance with the word osios, which also is similar to the word ocean and is indicative of holy sea. Osios, holy sea, they're actually cognizant with each other. The word holy is rooted in the word Hallel, which we dealt with last week, which also references Lucifer or hell. Again, we've got Gabriel over here depicted in green and red for a reason, with a halo and wings and a sword. All the things we've been looking at symbolically. Now, when you look at these pictures, you'll know what all these things mean. They're not by accident. He's depicted green for a reason. He's depicted with a red cloak for a reason. Okay, let's get back here for a second. So sea, this is where we are, holy sea. All right, sea. The English verb see shares the same meaning as spy, watch, peer, or look. And all of these words, we have been through in previous dragonologies. All these words are rooted in dragon etymology and allegory, all right? And you'll always find an all-seeing eye in places like Catholic churches. Okay, just to take you through a bit of it, a bit more detail. So look, for example, a synonym for look would be to peer. The word peer, similar to pair or pere, as we said earlier, from the parapial root. Then spy, obviously from the spiral, spirit root. Okay. And oculus, which is where you get the word occult from, where the occult evolved out of the word oculus, and oculus simply means eye, referencing the all-seeing eye. And just to show a few things here, we dealt with this particular slide last week, but I've added some things in. The word Lucifer breaks up as well, and the first part, look, loose or look. First part of Lucifer, a root is the root of look, but you've got luck, like, lick, conflict, licked. Licked is from this particular root as well, and look. Like car, from the car root, and licked. So it's got two separate roots. And then you got, I won't get into too much of this now, but fire, fairy, and fury, all linked into that root there. And of course, we spoke about the watchers. We've done so many times. Seraphim angels being sometimes depicted with eyes in their wings, indicative of the biblical watchers. And of course, the words see, S-E-E, and see, S-E-A, virtually the same word, but, just slightly different spelling. They said the same, they sound the same, and don't write them down, you wouldn't know the difference between them. And there's a very specific reason for that. It's not by accident. There is an etymological similarity between the English verb see, meaning to look, spy, peer, or watch, and the English noun sea, which references a large body of salt water. The occult world of commerce is based on admiralty and maritime law, which is effectively the law of the sea. Yeah? Was occult and eye. The slavery of humanity has been achieved through the implementation of admiralty and maritime law. A study of etymology shows that dedication, I think that's, what is that word meant to be? Shows the connection between, a study of etymology shows the connection between hosts, dragons, and angels, okay, and man, all right, and specifies a religious covenant which indicates the submission and domestication of man, all right? What we're trying to do here is show that the submission and domestication of man has been done through the religious covenant, okay? And you can see this through looking at etymology. The religious covenant indicating submission and domestication of man is dedicated in the Muslim faith, with the Arabic scholars stating that the verbal root SLM represents subjugation. Okay, SLM. So Arabic scholars, some of the most astute Arabic scholars say SLM represents subjugation and surrender. Islam, SLM, the surrender or resignation of oneself is expressed in Arabic as aslama, which translates into English as Islam, interestingly enough. And of course, peace. The covenant of God is commensurate with the term salim, which is a homonym of salam, meaning peace. Also the SLM, meaning peace. But what is peace? What does it really mean when people talk about peace, and does it exist? The true meaning of peace. Let's have a look. Well, we can understand, since it's just a bunch of letters and the concept doesn't really exist, there is no peace on earth, let's look at what it does mean. Okay, and we can define that by looking at the symbolism. The most common concept or symbol of peace is the dove. So the concept of peace is stylized, or I beg your pardon, is symbolized by the dove, which is expressed in Latin as columba, yeah? Which is etymologically cognizant with the word colubra, meaning serpent. So columba and colubra are the same as each other, are very similar to each other, and that's not an accident. In fact, Columba or Columbus, which means dove, is not Christopher Columbus's real name. That was just the name given to him so that people knew he was part of a secret society. That the story of him discovering America is actually just the control system's way of rewriting history. And of course, you'd have to be initiated to know that, or well studied. But Columba and Colubra, Columba meaning dove, Colubra meaning serpent, both Latin words, etymologically cognizant with each other, and it is the reason why the Holy Dove turns up in St. Peter's Basilica, why the dove turns up as the Holy Spirit in Christian art, and why the dove is the symbol of peace, is because there is no peace. It doesn't exist. They just want to make us believe that it does. The concept of peace as we wish it to be does not exist. All institutions claiming to be dedicated to peace are actually institutions which perpetuate war. The word love, for example, okay, let's have a look at this. The word dove is phonetically cognizant with love and Jove, right? There are no other words in the English language which kind of have the same sort of OVE ending. So let's have a look. Jove, we've seen him before. Jove, also known as Jupiter, is king of the gods, god of the sky and thunder. You can see the thunderbolts being depicted here. And of course, Jupiter was known as Zeus or Deus, which is where you get deity, deva, and all of that from. Divinity comes from the Deus root. But Deus or Zeus evolved in, this is the Greek incarnation of him. When the Romans invaded Greece, took over the religion, he became Jupiter, which then became Saint Peter, right? In the Vedic tradition, he was Deus Peter. And of course, this is one of my favorite pictures, Giulio Romano's artwork from the 15th century, just absolutely incredible. You see Jupiter depicted like this. Gods, kings, rulers, angels, and prophets are in fact dragons. If you didn't already know that, we've proven that beyond doubt. So if you have missed any previous Dragonology episodes and are doubting this fact, go back and watch them and then come and restate the case with me. Throughout ancient sources, the monarchs, rulers, prophets are depicted as mediators between hosts, gods, heavens, and man. Okay, so it's always been a case of the kings and rulers and monarchs and prophets talk to the angels and the gods in the heavens on behalf of man, and have been put there as rulers on behalf of the gods to rule over man, okay? And the progeny of the gods, rulers, beg your pardon, the hosts, the gods, the beings in heaven, aliens, whatever you want to call them, dragons, angels, they're normally referred to as demigods, or hemithoi, meaning half god. The is god, okay? Hemi is half. Or porphyrogentius, meaning purple-born. Orph, there's a certain root word, orph in there, all right? So the monarchs, rulers, and prophets were normally demigods, hemithoi, or porphyrogentius. Control through the star symbol, okay? Now we've all heard of, oh, I want to be a star. That person's a famous star in Hollywood. You know, we're so familiar with this term, we don't even stop to think what it really means. The star in hieroglyphs, obviously, we've spoken about, that's the ka sound, ka, which turns up in control. Control is maintained through multi-level symbolic allegory interwoven into language. For example, conflict, contract, and competition. We get into this now. This gets interesting. The concept of competition is rooted in dragon worship. Of course it is. I beg your pardon. The very first Olympic Games were in honor of the Greek god Zeus. And of course we have Olympic racing on tracks and on water and all sorts. They've got all sorts of competitive sport that they engage in during the Olympic Games, which originally started in Olympia, and were ready in honor of the gods. The word race, okay, we're going to focus on this a bit. This gets very interesting. Pay attention, guys, because you could miss what I'm trying to say here, and I try very hard to explain this clearly. It was difficult for me even to work out how to teach this, so bear with me here. I'm going to do my best on this one. The word race gives clear allegorical reference to the fact that sports, racing, or competition is rooted in dragon worship. Go on to explain. The word for to race in ancient Greek was gonos, yeah? The word agon means a contest. So a race, to race means gonos. A contest is agon. Very similar words, yeah? Gon, the word gon, the root word gon, which we find here, okay? The word gon forms the root, obviously, of dragon. We've been over this before, and originates in the gen root, okay? Gen, genealogy, gender, genealogy referring to what? Race, okay? Group, so this is the gon originates from the gen group of dragon root words. And of course, gon can evolve. It evolved into gen, as in genealogy or Genesis. We can see this over here because the earlier versions of Hesiod's theogony were actually spelled with theogeny, with an E, and it evolved over time to theogony, okay? Which literally means the genealogy of the gods. The, which is a dragon root word meaning gods, like theology, all right? And then gon, or gen, theogony, which literally means genealogy of the gods, because that's what this book is, okay? Theogony is the genealogy of the gods by Hesiod. So gon or gen means genealogy or race. So I just want to go back and explain that again, because this is very important for you to get, okay? Is that the word race not only means like a sporting race, but also means genealogy, okay? Just like the word gon means a sporting race as well as meaning genealogy. So both in the ancient Greek as well as in the modern English, the words for race or genealogy take on the same double meanings, meaning both the genealogy of a person or the engaging in a competitive activity, normally with a winner. Hope I've made that one clear. So sport, competition, or race is referenced by the same word, okay? Race meaning those of common descent, okay, which also can mean to engage in a sporting competition, all right? This gives clear indication to the inextricable link between the associations regarding the origins and purpose of sports, competitions, races as ritual, and they are, in fact, worship to the gods or the dragons. Now, the Olympic Games were of fundamental religious importance, and basically they featured sporting events alongside ritual sacrifices honoring Zeus. And sports, theatre, and competition are, in fact, as we've proven through all the dragonology we've done, all these things are rooted in ritual practice or god and dragon worship. Now, one of the things that's inextricably linked with the Olympic Games, of course, is this Olympic torch. And the torch we've dealt with already quite a bit. Associated with light, illumination, and sacred knowledge, the torch is a common symbolic allegory turning up on the gods, such as Phanes and Mithra, and in fact the Statue of Liberty. We've dealt with that in previous dragonologies. And of course, it's a symbol that turns up with the Olympic Games. Why? Because Olympic Games is a ritual. All sports originated on the desire or requirement to celebrate ritual in new ways by evolving customs whilst keeping the key symbolic indicators which reference the key intention of the activity, which is usually based in the occult practice of ritual and worship of the gods or dragons. Now, even football is ritual. All ball sport is ritual. Football was invented by Freemasons, okay? And I've been through baseball as well before. All the numbers, key indicators. One of the key indicators, always look at the numbers. Some of the numbers are always very telling when it comes to what is ritualistic and what is not. Ball sport. Oh, one of the banes of my life. Always hated ball sport. My father was obsessed. And now I know why. The word ball is etymologically cognizant with bal, okay? In fact, in Dutch, you call it bal. When you don't say ball, you say ek speel met die bal, yeah? You say it like you say the god Baal, which is another name for Moloch. So Baal or Moloch is the Canaanite god, which sometimes is depicted like a bull, but they used to sacrifice their children to this god. All right, and ball sport is nothing more than replacing the baby with the ball, yeah? And the sacrifice is represented by putting the ball into the goal, like putting the ball baby into the hands of Baal. And the programming that comes from ball sport is so evident as to, just how destructive it is. This to me is what I'd call a fractal or an example of how programmed people can be. You've got one side here, and they're playing a game, and it all revolves around the ball. And this side will hate this side just because they're on a different side, wearing maybe different colors or supporting a different team for no other reason. And football hooligans will fight each other, will kick each other, will get each other at times, all right? And for what? Just for being on different sides? They've not actually done anything to each other. They haven't hurt each other, you can't even understand the reason why these people get into a conflict with each other. It's over a ball. You know, what is football? It's a bunch of professional football, a bunch of overpaid egos chasing around a field after a ball. And the people who sit around cheering and supporting them will fuck each other up over the ball. Pardon my language. Or which side you're supporting. And I'm sorry if I sit here and I sound like I'm confused, but it's just because I am. You know, the limitless dimensions of human stupidity become so obvious when you look at things like this. Ball sport is nothing but competitive programming and conflict programming. And this is very evident in the things that have manifested in the forms of football hooliganism, which is part of sporting culture now. It's almost expected in a way. You know, that you get that passionate and hit up that you're willing to, kill people on the other side to support your team. All mind control, all programming. And if there are any football hooligans out there, I'm talking to you, and you know it. Competition causes contempt, and that is a fact. Yeah? Competition causes contempt. Star. The star word is a symbol of war. Competition causes contempt, which causes conflict. Licht, of course, coming from the look root of Lucifer. Yeah, conflict. Okay. Look at all these words. I'm going to read through them quickly. You can tell me what these words have in common. See if you can. We have agony, angry, anguish, fury, fear, fight, hostile, exorcism, fury, cruel, torture, war, genocide, and conflict. I'll give you a few moments, I should say. Just ponder all these words. There's two things that all these words have in common. First off, these words represent a state of fear, the polarity of darkness, the state of war, conflict, every word there. Yeah, they're not the other opposite, enlightenment, love. It's not that. This is the dark. All these words. And besides having that commonality, the other commonality they have is the fact that they're all rooted in dragon etymology. And if you don't believe me, I'll take you through it. Okay. We've gone through the gon, agony. Yeah, gon, rooted in jin, rooted in jin. Angry, rooted in anguish and angui, anguiem. Anguish, fury, from fairy and fey. Fear, from fairy and fey. Fight, light and lit. Yeah. Hostile, from host. Exorcism, orc being the key word in there. Fury, did it twice there. Cruel, from crew. Torture, talked about a torch today. Torture. War. Genocide, we've got the gen in there. And then conflict. Now, before I end the finale episode of season 1, I want you to seriously consider for a minute whether or not it is coincidence that these words all have dragon etymology in them and what that really means. The pursuit of peace on earth is not the far-flung ideals of delusional minds, rather the desire to live without poverty, suffering, and genocide perpetuated purely for the purposes of profit. Which profit? Both profits. And with that, I guess we end the 13th episode of season 1, season finale. And for those of you who have watched through the entire season, we thank you so much for your dedication. We are still trying to receive sponsorship in order to publish the Encyclopedia of Dragonology. And as you can see, it is a massive body of work, and I look very much forward to getting season 2 out there. But we obviously would love some funding to help get the Encyclopedia of Dragonology to accompany the body of research that has made up the series of Dragonology. So please, guys, if you enjoy our work, help us get this to other people. And this will only be published in one language. It can only be published in one language because, well, we deal with every language in Dragonology, don't we? And of course, just to remind you all, this is not the end of it from me. We'll be appearing at the Tug Events gathering called Origins on the 27th of June, which is next week, Sunday, or Saturday, is it? I think it's Saturday, yeah? And basically, I'll be doing a presentation dealing with human origins, language, and all sorts. And that's going to be really interesting. We've got some really good speakers, including Dr. Credo Mutwa, talking about the origins of African culture. So lots of interesting things going on there, guys. Check out tug.events to find out details about all the guest speakers and upcoming events. And, of course, to reserve your front seat to the best university on earth. If you've missed any of the Dragonology episodes, please feel free to help yourself to a high-definition download, which is available at ethymarket.com. And if you want, you can become a monthly pledger for €10 a month, and that gives you free unlimited access to all the high-definition downloads of CCN's entire back catalogue of work, including all the Dragonology episodes. And please do help support our network by contributing to the Network Support Fund. We really do need to keep this network going, and we can only do it with public support. Thank you to everybody for supporting free and independent media. We do this because we love you all, and we look forward to seeing you for the next episode, for the next season of Dragonology. But don't go anywhere. For now, coming up next is Bridget Dolgolf with Consciousness of Economics, a great new show that we're so proud to have here on CCN. And if you want to know about any of the other shows we have here on Conscious Consumer Network, please do check out the broadcast guide, which gets updated on a weekly basis. And of course, that is available at consciousconsumernetwork.tv. And that's it from me, Mel V. I hope you have enjoyed season 1 of Dragonology, and we will see you for season 2. Until then, take care for now. Bye-bye.
If you really had to make a difference on a large scale with minimal resources, how would you go about it? Have you ever dared to dream of doing that which seems impossible? On a planet steeped with corruption and destruction, the question beckons, how do we change it? Media has a far-reaching impact on people and has been used to manipulate humanity into our current destructive patterns. In order to affect people into moving into constructive patterns of behavior, we need to construct a new paradigm of media. Conscious Consumer Network has been created with the explicit intention of giving the amazing truth-seeking, solutions-orientated, alternative media a place to fully realize their true potential with a cutting-edge, high-tech professional media platform. In turn, some of the greatest freedom-seeking hearts and souls of our time have realized the true potential of what has been created and have come together to provide their insight and inspiration on CCN. Conscious Consumer Network has become a unique, interactive information and educational network which provides a free-to-view, live-stream, ultra-high-definition channel to the world and features 25 live shows a week and growing with the addition of multiple language broadcasts. CCN has features comparable with mainstream media, such as being able to pause and rewind broadcasts whilst being live-streamed. Catch up on missed or previous broadcasts, now available from CCN high-definition downloads. You can now purchase a high-definition download of your favorite CCN show from ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a monthly pledger. This can be done with a monthly pledge of €10, which will allow you unlimited access to CCN's high-definition downloads, which hosts a back catalogue of over 250 shows, which have been aired since the launch of CCN on the 1st of January 2015. In order to keep CCN free of corporate sponsorship and advertising, CCN has launched the Pledge 300 campaign. This is a realistic goal with the hopes of securing a minimum of 300 people who will each pledge €10 a month. With this number, we can continue to grow and operate and potentially expand into a second foreign language channel. Help keep alternative media in the hands of the people. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.